Each Boxing Day, Sydney Harbor undergoes a nautical eruption. A sports-mad nation looking on, a race revered alongside the greatest and toughest ocean challenges on the planet. For 80 years, the Rolex Sydney Hobart yacht race has been shaped by brave sailors, legendary yachts, and the unbreakable spirit of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, the custodians of this iconic event since inception. It all started in 1945. As 9 yachts journeyed south, an adventurous summer cruise soon transformed into a daunting challenge. 6.5 days later, the smallest yacht, Rani, took line and handicap honours, affirming her skipper, Captain John Illingworth, as the father of modern ocean racing in Australia. In 1946, Jane Tate was one of 2 women to compete for the first time. Her legacy today, a perpetual trophy for first female skipper over the line. 65-footer Morna led the charge with 3 straight line honours wins, adding 4 more when renamed Kurrawa 4. Then came Freya, setting the standard for greatness with 3 consecutive overall wins from 1963 to 65. The 70s consolidated a new trend of foreign raiders. The era of the great Maxis had arrived. American Jim Kilroy with Kialoa 3 smashed the race record in 1975. Built for the Admiral's Cup, Love and War was also turning eyes. She claimed overall honours in 74 and again in 78. The first all-women crew shifted race history in 1975. Skipper Vicky Willman redefined who could and would take on the great race. 1982 saw a dramatic finish. Apollo and Condor of Bermuda drifted up the Derwent, Condor home by just 7 seconds. Nothing symbolises endurance quite like the Sid Fisher ragamuffin story. Sid's first Hobart in the early 60s, a first line honours win in the late 80s, and in 2015 at 88 he became the oldest competitor. The 1990s saw some arduous conditions and changed the race forever. The 50th anniversary fleet in '94 attracted a record 371 starters. Local Maxi, Tasmania, claimed the state's first and only line honours win. A new titan arrived after the turn of the century. Bob Oatley's Wild Oats 11 dominated across the next 2 decades, securing a staggering 9 line honours wins. But her supremacy was under siege from Jim Clark's American superstar, Comanche. Built for speed and breaking records, she did just that in 2017, scorching home in 1 day, 9 hours and 15 minutes. The prize Tattersall Cup for overall winner cemented Matt Allen's Ichiban in the race's pantheon. 3 overall victories from 2017 to 21 equalled Freya and Love and War. Hobart's renowned welcome reached a crescendo when local yacht Alive, skippered by Duncan Hine, claimed overall victory in 2018 and again in 2023. More recently, Dr. Sam Haynes and his TP52 Celestial etched their own comeback story. A first overall in 2022 and a stunning victory last year on Celestial V70. After 3 seconds, Christian Beck's Law Connect finally broke through in 2023 after a 2-boat war with Andrew Comanche. Law Connect then successfully defended her title last year. Across 9 decades, this race has inspired all those who dare to face the fierce Tasman Sea. From pioneers to modern gladiators. Every story, every milestone, every finish has led to this moment. Welcome to Boxing Day. Welcome to the start of the 80th Rolex Sydney Hobart. It began as a race among mates. 80 years later, it stands proudly at the pinnacle of the world's great ocean classics. The Rolex Sydney Hobart is also the only race that starts in a harbour, has 2 separate coastal passages separated by a notorious strait, and then finishes in a river. And today, every vantage point on iconic Sydney Harbour Land, sea and air will be taken. All is ready as we brace for that anticipated eruption on water, played out in front of the largest number of spectators at a live sporting event anywhere in the world. Yes, anticipation and excitement has certainly gone up a couple of notches over the last 48 hours. And with me in commentary, we have some sailing royalty. Olivia Price, Olympic silver medalist, and Peter Shipway, the voice of the race and a multiple winner. Pete, what's ahead?
Yes, thank you, Gordon. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, with 5 maxis and 1 90-footer, it's going to be an exciting battle for line honours. But I think for the first time in many years, we could have a small boat win on handicap and take home the coveted Tattersall Cup. It's going to be a very exciting race to the heads with this strong southerly and then a good bash to windward for 36 hours or so. One thing for certain, though, Comanche's 2017 race record will not be shattered of 1 day and 9 hours.
Well, heart rates are certainly up, a bit of apprehension. Olivia, what's ahead?
It is going to be an exciting start. The conditions of the wind are building and offshore the swell is also building as well. Each of the races have another race with inside it, whether it be for overall divisional placings or for line honours. Each of these yachts have their own goals. We have first timers alongside Sydney Hobart winners and they're all going to be jumping when the gun goes.
Well, as Peter mentioned, Jim Cootie's Comanche took the race honours and the record in 2017, and the principal helmsman was James Spithill, America's Cup hero, a national sporting hero. Jimmy, great to have you on board for the 9 coverage.
G'day Gordon, and to everyone at home to this year's 80th Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race. Well, not exactly a summer's day out here, but beautiful conditions for the start. We've got 15 to 20 knots. We've got high tide right at start time, and we're going to see a very, very quick exit of the harbour for all 4 fleets and their own respective starts. However, once they get the south head and turn right, it will be anything but quick. It's going to be an uncomfortable ride as all of these teams that bash their way down to Hobart.
The first all-female crew competed in 1975. And this year, will it be lucky number 13 for Elizabeth Tucker on first light? Our own Lisa Darmanin, Olympic silver medalist, is on board. Lisa.
Hello everyone, it is awesome to be here on First Light seeing these incredible women prepare for the race. We've got 167 women taking part in the race, 14 of them being owners or skippers, so great to see that growing year on year. Of course, this isn't the first all-female crew. We did have Stacey Jackson back in 2018 come agonisingly close to winning the Tattersall Cup. She finished second, but we've got women across the fleet. We've got Alice Tanowski, she's navigating on the Palm Beach 11, and we've got trailblazer Adrian Carlin doing her 33rd Hobart. So amazing to see the opportunities for women growing year on year, and I can't wait to see how these women fare.
4 separate start lines to cater for the large fleet, then to different turning marks at the heads to equalise the difference between the starting lines. And then the east coast of New South Wales, Bass Strait, the east coast of Tasmania, and then the famous Tasman Island at the entrance to Storm Bay, 30 miles across the bay, 11 miles to the finish in Old Hobart Town.
Yes, and weather-wise, it's certainly going to be a lot colder on the water than 18 degrees. And once they get outside, as Jimmy mentioned, they'll be bashing into that 25-knot southerly. We're counting down to the start of the Blue Water Blockbuster, the 80th Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. It's regarded as the Everest of ocean racing. 628 nautical miles of strategy, endurance, and the relentless Tasman Sea.
Who will claim line honours in the 2025 Rolex Sydney Hobart? Can Christian Beck's Law Connect pull off an impressive three-peat?
Law Connect is over the line.
Returning to unfinished business, Matt Allen and James Mayo are out to conquer Master Lock Comanche's 5th line honours title. Back in Australian waters after a victory at the Rolex Middle Sea Race and a close second at the Rolex Fastnet Race, does SHK Scallywag 100 have what it takes to claim the silverware? Is Mark Richards set to revive the Oatley family legacy and claim a remarkable 10th line honours on the Silver Bullet, Palm Beach 11? Grant Warrington's Wild Thing 100 determined to finally hold its own against the big dogs with its new rig and pull off an impressive upset.
130 yachts will tackle the Tasman Sea for the Great Race South, but only one will claim the legendary Tattersall Cup for the overall win. Is it a third victory for Dr. Sam Haynes on Celestial V70? How will URM's Anthony and David Johnston go swapping footy boots for sea legs on the Tasman Sea? Hoping to make WA proud, Rob Appleyard's crew striving to become only the second ever team from the West to win the top prize since 1975. Lucky, the US 88-footer. Is her name an omen for victory? Is 2025 the year for the 52s to have their turn? Can James Murray and his star-studded team aboard Callisto claim the offensive? Or is it the Australian Blue Water champion Smuggler who will achieve the victory? Fresh from the Admiral's Cup, skipper Sean Langman is yet again determined to finally achieve his lifelong dream, claiming the Tattersall Cup on his GP42 back to black. And let's not forget the little boats of the race. Is it a four-peat for Rupert Henry after 3 back-to-back double-handed wins? 50 years after her first win, can the famous SNS 47 conquer and claim a 4th overall win?
Follow along the milestone 80th Rolex Sydney Hobart to see who will claim the impressive John H. Illingworth Challenge Cup for line honours and the prestigious George Adams Cup for overall victory.
Yes, we are just under 16 minutes to the start. It's cold in Sydney. It's lumpy and bumpy outside. It's going to be a bash to windward on the first night. And the exclusion zone will be dictated by big yellow buoys around the perimeter of the course, keeping all spectators outside. New South Wales Maritime, after months of planning, 20 vessels and over 50 staff on deck to safely manage the waterway, controlling spectator craft, and also looking down for clear water and a smooth passage for the yachts as they go down on this opening leg. And it's going to be a race for the people, the people's race, Olivia Price.
It really is about the people, with more than 1,250 sailors in this race. We have ranging from Corinthian amateur crews, double-handed and fully crewed teams. It also includes 8 18-year-olds starting their first Rolex Sydney Hobart, and then at the other end of the spectrum we have Tony Ellis sailing in his record-breaking 55th.
Well, there's Comanche, Master Lock Comanche, probably the race favourite for line honours. She's won the race 4 times on line honours, and here's Lucky. The boat was formerly Rambler 88, has been here once before and finished 3rd over the line, but she's now got a new owner and a new crew. Brad Butterworth, a top New Zealand yachtsman, well known around the world, is aboard her, and she's only 90-footer, but she will absolutely give the 100-footers a real run for their money.
Representing the United States of America, they have had a successful year so far in 2020-25, taking line honours race record in the Sydney to Auckland Ocean Race.
And never a dull moment on Wild Thing, Grant Warrington, this proud Queenslander, and they are certainly set to tackle the conditions in earnest, Peter.
A larger mast this year. She's got Wild Oats' 11's old mast, a taller rig, and Warro's already won the race once on line honours in 2003, and here's probably the race favourite on handicap, URM, and a beautiful Reichel Pugh design, second 2 years ago, and this year very much on the favourites list.
Yes, they've won everything leading up to the race. And we're now just over 13 minutes away from the start. Can't wait here for the 80th Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.
A revamped Palm Beach, got a reef in the mainsail, expecting tough conditions outside the heads. The headsail's still to be put up. They're not racing with any foils this year. They were expected to have foils and T-foils off the back, but in view of the conditions being strong upwind, the foils will give them no advantage whatsoever upwind. They're designed really for performance downwind. So they've taken them off, plugged the hole, and they're more back to a conventional yacht.
Exactly. They have also moved the dagger boards further forward in the boat, so it will help them in these upwind forecasted conditions.
SHK Scallywag for Dave Witt on his 27th Hobart race, designed by Andy DeVell, Mark Bradford, and as a board, well-known sailmaker. And double navigators in Will Oxley, a former winner of the race, and Christopher Wilde. They broke their bowsprit in 2023, but have had a successful campaign overseas. They were second to finish in the Fastnet this year, and the year before they won the Middle Sea Race on line honours. There's SHK Scallywag, very narrow boat compared to Law Connect and Master Lock Comanche.
And we will, she is someone to look for down after the first 24 hours, being a smaller, lighter, thinner hull. And so it's going to be interesting to see all those 100-footers after the first 24 hours, who's playing catch-up.
SHK Scallywag, David Witt. He's been trying to win this race for 35 years. And if ever he has a chance, it's this time in 2025.
Strong crew, two navigators, Chris Wilde and Will Oxley. Will's won the race before on corrected time. Mark Bradford from North Sails comes aboard. They broke their bowsprit 2 years ago when they last in the Hobart race. And here's Law Connect. She has had a fabulous last 2 years in this race, and she's also won in 2016 and had that remarkable win by 51 seconds 2 years ago.
Yes, and the great Ian Thorpe, Torpedo, World Swimming Swimmer of the Year 4 times, the man who won 3 gold medals and 2 silver medals at the Sydney 2000 Games, on board with Christian Beck.
Also on board is Christian Beck's 18-year-old son, Indy Beck, doing his first Rolex Sydney Hobart after a tough year for him, so he's excited to join his dad.
Well, conditions now on the harbour. These boats are moored up under Nielsen Park, and they are getting a bit of a lead there. The 10-minute gun has just been fired by John Kirkjun, lifetime member of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, put in a remarkable amount of service for the club, and he's had the honour of firing the 10-minute gun. And here is Callisto. This boat will be highly favoured. Dean Barker on board. The America's Cup.
Actually, no limit.
No limit,
Pete.
I'm sorry, it is. Same colour hulls.
Goetz.
David Goetz. So they were this boat was third in 2018 as Voodoo. Very good crew on her. There's Master Lock Comanche in the foreground. The breeze now about 17 to 18 knots out of the south, but it's going to get fresher as they get round the heads, and there's a big sea on. There's powerful surf conditions, large and powerful surf conditions, and about 3 metre swell outside the head. So it's going to be a good test for both crews and the boats. It's a matter of hanging together tonight to get through this first night. It's going to be pretty gnarly.
It is, and in order to finish first you have to finish. So that's what a lot of these sailors will be keeping in mind, trying to prevent any breakages and making sure they don't lose distance to their fleets that they're competing against.
And Olivia, your husband Tom has been part of the Palm Beach 11 team, getting this boat on the water today to the start. They've been going 24/7.
They have been working around the clock. Shout out to Tom, my husband, but also all the team that's been working for the past 8 to 10 weeks around the clock, modifying the hulls and the foils. Now, we won't see those major modifications with the sea foils today, as the forecast just didn't allow for the advantage of having them. But they have made those modifications. They're plugging the entry points for those sea foils, so they've got a plug underneath the waterline and a cover plate on top to make sure it's watertight.
So just under 3 minutes away now to the 5-minute gun. And repeating, it's going to be a spinnaker run up the harbour, a very fast run, and once they get outside the heads, they will be bashing into this southerly, which is predicted at 25 knots and more, and also some very unfriendly seas.
They're just starting to line up now on the 4 respective starting lines. We've only got 14 boats. Most of the big yachts are on the front starting line. The second starting line, 25 yachts. And then the third starting line, 43 yachts. And the final starting line, the 4th line, 47 yachts. Here's the defending champion, Celestial V70. They won in massive style last year, winning by just over 9 hours on corrected time. Sam Haynes back again with most of the crew that won last year. And again, they will be highly favoured, although I think, given the weather forecast, for handicap honours, it's going to be one of the smaller boats that's going to take the overall honours.
And when this boat was coming back from Hobart last year, they were hit by a squall, and the leach of the sail, which is along the boom, absolutely shredded, and their boom was broken. So they've had a new boom and a whole new sail wardrobe by Jim Cooney, and it's been chartered, as we've mentioned, by the CYCA Commodore Sam Haynes. It's now Celestial V70, the former Willow.
And we've just got Moneypenny on screen, the Western Australian entrant, owned by Rob Appleyard. It's a great Western Australian entry. All but one team member is from Western Australia, father, son on board, and it was obviously previously owned by Sean Langman.
And yes, she was third 2 years ago when Sean Langman steered her, and Sean sailing on one of the smaller boats this year. And here is a wild thing you can see with a big reef in the mainsail already and a small jib. They'll unfurl that front sail for the run to the heads. And then with 5 minutes 40 to go, they're starting to line up now, and Warrow will be down with shortened sail. There's a tiny jib they've got on, probably a J3 at the moment. And then we're looking back at all the respective starting lines. There's Celestial V70. The breeze is up, 18 knots perhaps, 20 knots at the Western Channel pile. Here's Rum Bucket. She's on the second line, I think,
Yep.
Rum Bucket.
New Zealand entry, sailed in Corinthian previously, owned by Quinton Fowler.
Okay, coming up to the 5-minute gun, to be fired by Admiral Chris Oxenbould, RAN retired. Another great worker for the CYC over the years. So less than 5 minutes to go for the great race to be underway.
So we'll be seeing everyone starting to set up their positioning, figuring out exactly where they want to be. The 100-foot Super Maxis have limited options based on the depth of their keels to actually make it out of Sydney Harbour. And with the extension of Palm Beach 11's keel as well, they've got even limited options.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very quick run to the heads, probably about 5 minutes for the first turning mark. Then they go around the inner turning mark, then to the outer turning mark. And then they're on the breeze then to Hobart, and it's going to be a bash up tonight for this fleet, as the breeze is expected to get up to 30 knots the further south they get, and the sea to be 3 to 3.5 metres. So it won't be pleasant. It'll be a matter of holding together the crew and the boats. There's going to be some retirements, I would think. It's going to be tough old night for sure.
We just saw Advantage setting up their position, Tasmanian entrant skippered by Andrew Jones. 2 father-son combinations on board, Andrew and Joss Jones, along with Michael and Nick Smart. They took line honours in the 2022 Maria Island race.
Yes, there are 40 families involved But dominating in that regard is the Johnson brothers on URM. There are 5 brothers on board. And we're now just under 3.5 minutes before the starts. Well, remember back in 2014, it was this boat as Wild Oats 11 taking on Comanche, making her debut in the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. And it was a screaming start. It looks as though that record of 4 minutes and 35 seconds to the turning mark is under threat here.
Just under 3 minutes to go. They'd be starting to just get back a little bit. They won't put the pedal down until about a minute to go. It'll be time on distance then. There's Law Connect in the background, Wild Thing in the foreground. You can see that reef in the Wild Thing's mainsail already. Looks like Law Connect's got full hoist on their mainsail. And then bottom right is, I think it's Lucky. Again, full hoist mainsail. So only minimal number of boats on this first line, 14 of the big boys, so it'll give them plenty of room.
You can see they all have their reaching sails up ready to deploy when that start gun does go.
All Australian states are represented. 66 from New South Wales, 15 from Queensland and Victoria, 11 from Tasmania, 4 South Australia and 4 from Western Australia. And 50 years ago, Rampage was the Western Australian boat that won its first overall victory for the Westerners.
First and only time Western Australia have won this race, and Queensland, the only Australian state never to have won this race on corrected time. So there's a chance with 16 boats from Queensland, there's a chance for them in this race. But we're getting close now, minute 45 to start time. No general recall. The boats will, if they're over the line, they'll be alerted by radio, maybe alerted by radio 5 minutes after the start. So general recall means that they won't call the whole fleet back. It'll be individual recalls only. Here are some of the boats, smaller boats on the second line.
And Olivia Price, putting on your Olympic match racing cap. Take us through these moments now. Just over a minute to go.
With just over a minute to go, we'll be setting up on that right-hand side where all the yachts are currently setting up, because they're going to be able to deploy their spinnakers and get the best angle out of the harbour. Now, you'd want to be careful not to be kept out by anyone. The boats closest to the bottom of the screen will have most of the right-of-way and have that decision-making point as to when to turn down and head across that start line.
They're all stacked up on the western side, which means they want a better angle of attack to get down the harbour. With 40 seconds to go, the starting gun to be fired by Scott McAllister from Western Australia. On Rampage 50 years ago, Peter Packer's Rampage. There's Scotty getting ready to fire the gun. He was also a part of the Australia 2 winning America's Cup squad, a very famous Australian yachtsman, and what an honour for him to get this big fleet away and to be on the only Western Australian boat ever to have won this race. Here they are, they're just putting bows up now down towards the leeward end. There's a couple of boats, but they're stacked up towards the middle of the line at the moment with just 5 seconds to go.
Law Connect deploys first.
The gun goes, the smoke billows, and the 139 starters are heading for Hobart, the second oldest city in Australia.
Tony Mudd has done it again on Law Connect. He's got the jump on Master Lock Comanche for this tight reach to the heads. Great start, Law Connect. Master Lock Comanche just to leeward of them. And here come these reaching sails. They're breaking out now. Pace is on. Lucky a good start there as well. There's Alethea, a big cruising 80-footer, but Law Connect going down towards the Western Channel Pile Light, and down to leeward is Lucky.
And that's the third year in a row that Law Connect has got the jump on Master Lock Comanche.
But the boat that's moving well is Lucky, putting his bow down. He's further to the western side and will get a very good angle of attack to the turning mark.
Lucky's able to sail a better angle to the wind, as you said, Peter, to be able to create faster speed. Just behind them is Moneypenny as well, had a great start. Palm Beach 100 in a great position as well to potentially take Master Lock Comanche's wind after they're stuck in Law Connect. So the boats furthest down the bottom of the screen are the boats that have the best, clearest wind to the exit.
Yeah, well, Lucky's going to struggle here because as she puts the bow up, she's going to get the lee of Master Lock Comanche and Law Connect for sure.
Let's go to Jimmy Spithill now, who's on the water watching this dogfight at the front of the fleet.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. Well, very impressive job from Tony Mutter and team on Law Connect, but it's still very tight. Lucky got a great start down on the western side. I was watching all the pre-start practice and all the boats are really favouring the western side because much more consistent wind and a better angle to this first turning mark. But right at the moment, it's between Lucky and Law Connect.
Yeah, what Lucky's going to have a problem with the higher she gets up under Law Connect, whether she can get clear wind off Master Lock Comanche and off Law Connect as well. But it's tight, very tight for the run to the honours to be first out the heads.
Lisa, what can you see on those lines further back? It looks like there's plenty going on.
There is so much going on in the other start lines. It's so crowded. There was only 14 boats on the first start line. Here it's just, so close, so many boats. And, that lineup is so important. But what's really interesting about this start is everyone had to deploy that sail. So there was a few mistakes going on. But, I think just having a downward start is super fun for everybody. And, being able to get out that heads and then it's just going to be a full fight. But, yeah, it's all on out here with all these boats.
And it's all Law Connect at the moment as they race towards the turning mark.
It's a battle in 4. Law Connect's got the inside running. Lucky, as she gets higher and higher, she's going to run out of a bit of a gas here, covered by the massive sails on both Master Lock and Law Connect. And coming up is Palm Beach 11. They're in the race, and down to leeward is SHK Scallywag. But we're down now, getting towards Camp Cove, past the Sound Pigs Reef, getting towards Inner South Reef. The breeze only about 15 to 18 knots here. It's a little bit protected by the headland south head.
Master Lock Comanche was able to just surge through into Law Connect, but weren't able to get past them. So Law Connect again able to control everyone's speed. Their positioning from the start line gave them that edge as they moved further out the harbour.
Yeah, for the last few years, it's always been Law Connect to the first turning mark. She's got those honours, and Christian Beck loves that honour of being first out the heads.
I was just about to say he loves the sponsorship that the Law Connect gives him, being first out of the heads, and I know they've had some pretty tight odds on there too.
Well, he says he's the underdog, doesn't he, every year? But these conditions are certainly made for Law Connect, a great seaboat in the bash down the coast.
He likes to think he's the underdog, but he's done pretty well for an underdog. But they're firmly in command of this race now to be first to the turning mark.
We haven't mentioned SHK Scallywag, David Witt. He's on the western side of the course and not that far behind these leaders.
It looked like they just mistimed their acceleration and trigger point to get across the start line. They were maybe 15 to 20 seconds late on that jump point.
See Master Lock Comanche trying to put the bow down and get further to leeward of Law Connect. Law Connect going higher, but I think they'll be pretty much on the lay to these turning mark. Palm Beach 11 down to leeward. And that down right to leeward looks like, is that Money Penny? But there's SHK Scallywag.
URM's done a terrific job as well.
They
the 70-footer.
They deployed it at the right time. They were just to leeward of Law Connect, obviously being 30 feet longer. Law Connect got that extra jump, and we're approaching this turning mark. It's going to be exciting with Master Lock Comanche just surging through. Law Connect's going to have to sail a very tight rounding around that mark just to the right of the screen.
And for the last 2 years, Peter, we've had a furling problem on Law Connect after they've been first round the mark.
Well, they're going to be first round this time. Let's hope it's not 3 times unlucky, but they're starting to furl now, and they'll get those big reaching sails away as quick as they can. But it's Law Connect has got the honours to be first around the turning mark and first to reach out to sea to the next turning mark before they come hard on the wind. But as Olivia said, they've got a pretty tight turn here on Law Connect, but she can lock Master Lock Comanche out. Okay, they're around in just under 6 minutes. It's been rapid paced. Master Lock trying to get up inside Law Connect there. I think Graham Taylor GT will try and be steering Master Lock Comanche. A bit slow, it's a bit bouncy. You can see the waves already coming through the heads, just getting that furling, that reaching sail down. Law Connect looks well settled. Third around is Lucky.
And then Palm Beach 100 is going to be fourth around.
Yeah, then SHK Scallywag.
Caught up.
All the suspects are there, that is for sure. Lucky's right in the mix for a 90-footer. They've done very well.
David Witt said that he wouldn't be surprised if the 100-footers are together in the River Derwent at the end of the race.
Well, about 625 miles to go. We'll soon find out. But it's windy outside and a lumpy old seaway.
We are still just inside the harbour, and it's going to get bumpier and bumpier. Forecasted 3 to 4 metre swells for the late afternoon this afternoon. So everyone's going to be settling in and getting ready for this hard slog. Palm Beach 100 did a great job of pulling their furling sail down and putting it on the deck of the boat. Earlier we saw we saw Masterlock Comanche just struggling, not able to get their sails on enough, and it's still in the air. They're just starting to lower it now.
Breeze is down a little bit here as they get through the heads. It's probably only about 15 knots. Still a little bit protected by South Head, and you can see some of the boats somewhat upright. Palm Beach with a reef in the sail. They got very, very upright. SHK Scallywag powering off to leeward, but at the moment there's about 8 boats already around the turning mark.
Jimmy Spithill, your thoughts on what we've seen so far?
Well, we've seen all the big boats get round unscathed on the turning mark here, but there's been a little bit of a vacuum of wind behind South Head, and their boats are a little bit underpowered as they're just sort of bashing their way through this big swell in the heads. I think once they get a mile or two out, they'll get back into that fresher breeze. We're just starting to see the second fleet now make their way down to this turning mark.
Yes, and Lisa, from your perspective, more towards the middle of the fleet, how are things looking?
Things are looking good. I think everyone's soaking up the downwind while they can. But, you know, I think what's so great about this is everyone's having their own battles within the fleet. As you said, obviously we want to see those 100-footers absolutely rip, but lots of battles going on. And, you know, if you get out the heads in front of your competitors, you get a little bit of control of the race. There's going to be so much tactics involved in this race once they get offshore. So it's still pretty crowded out here. And as you said, the wind's not quite as strong as we were expecting, and it's quite patchy. So I think everyone's just trying to make sure that they can stay in a bit of breeze, get around the turning mark, and then the real fight's on.
Well, they don't look quite hard on the breeze yet. They've got to go to an outer turning mark. They look as though they're just sprung, so they're reaching out at probably pretty good speed, about 12 to 15 knots. And once they get to the outer turning mark, it'll be hard on the breeze for the next 36 to 48 hours.
So just recapping the order, Law Connect was around in just under 6 minutes. That's below or above the record of Masterlock Comanche of 4 minutes and 35 back in 2014. Masterlock Comanche second around, Lucky third from the United States, then Palm Beach 11 and Scallywag just behind. Wild Thing 100 in 6th place around the mark, followed by URM Group and No Limit.
Those mini maxis keeping up with the 100-footers and keeping it in the mix.
You can see what's happening here. These are the boats off the back starting lines, and they've run out a little bit of breeze because there's so many boats there that the breeze has been taken away. The boats down to leeward are really struggling.
That's Vixen Racing, and they've got a bit of a problem at the moment.
We could see at the start, just as we were chatting to Lisa, that they didn't have their spinnaker fully deployed. Something at the top was stuck. It looked like the sock was stuck, so they're having to make a change in their sail, and you can see them just dropping back a little bit further. Vixen Racing, obviously skippered by Sharon Ferris-Choate. And they're just dropping a little bit, which is unfortunate for them.
That's the boat on the right-hand side with the pink stripes on the hull.
Here come the back of the fleet now, off the back starting lines. Got a reasonable breeze. It's not as strong as it was as some of these second line boats coming out now. And they just eased, the gear is eased. And now Law Connect is at the second turning mark. She's on the breeze now. She holds a 2-3 boat length lead over Masterlock Comanche. So Tony Mudd has done it again for Christian Beck. First to sea and points a bow towards Hobart. Can she retain that lead? Well, there's a long way to go. You can see the crew there of Masterlock Comanche just trying to get that reaching sail back off the bow.
Yeah, they've spent most of that time trying to do that. You can see now Law Connect has sailed a higher angle out of the mark to try and control this race. Masterlock Comanche is trying to sail a lower angle but faster and see if they can sail a little bit further offshore, as we have Lucky rounding the outer mark in third.
Juan Vila, the top world-class navigator on board, and Rodney Daniels going to break the record of 15 line honours victories. He currently holds the record with Steve Jarvin. He's going for number 15th as we watch Palm Beach 11. Great to see her back in this race. Without the foils she's racing, but Mark Richards at the helm, and that's the scene. The big boys are on their way south.
Yes, the race only in progress for just under 12 minutes. And it's Masterlock Comanche chasing Law Connect very hard with Lucky, the 88-footer, in third place.
Okay, well, that's Palm Beach 11. And it's not that much. The breeze is down a little bit. The sea is up, but the breeze certainly down. And the boats with reefs in the sail will be struggling a little bit, but it's forecast to get fresher as they get south. But Masterlock Comanches did seem to have a little bit of a problem there with a furl. Okay, here come some of the smaller boats now.
First Light is the grey boat in the middle of the screen. They're just having to do a jibe around. There's a congestion zone at those marks with everyone surging at the one time.
Well, Masterlock Comanche right in the gas of Law Connect there. They had to pull away to try, and they've still got a man in the bow, I think.
They do.
Trying to get that sail detached from the bow to get it down below, because they won't be needing that reaching sail for a long while. But you can see the further they get to sea, there's more white caps. It's a bumpy old seaway, that's for sure. And they're just tidying up some ropes up there. The sail has been put down below, but they're just tidying up their tack lines by the look of it. Wet old place to be out there, and a bumpy old place. Yeah, just getting the furling gear back. Maybe there's an issue, but just putting that back off the bow.
I always have a big admiration for everyone forward of the mast, especially in these conditions. You know, you've got to hold your breath under the waves each time. And so they're going to be settling in. You can see they're just cleaning everything up. But I certainly haven't been on the bow of a 100-footer, so, you know, all props to them.
Yeah, it's not a place for the faint-hearted. They're probably taking those furling gear off because they know they're not going to be using it for a long while, so they just decrease the weight in the bow a little bit, perhaps, to get that back. But it's a bumpy ride up there.
And so we are expected to see this forecast again increase up to 25 to 30 knots into the evening before it starts settling down a little bit into the early hours of tomorrow, maybe in the afternoon. We might see it be eventually lighter.
Intrepid followers in that rib alongside them. They're going to have a bit of bumpy trip out to sea. And that's looking back towards Macquarie Light and the massive cliffs at South Head. But it's Masterlock and Law Connect pretty equal in speed at the moment. Oh, and here comes some little boats all locked up at this turning mark.
Big congestion.
A lot of them. Just got to keep your nose clear here. You wouldn't want any damage to suffer any damage.
No, it is.
Don't take any risks.
It is risk avoidance, isn't it? You know, the rules can be a little bit grey sometimes with the length of the boat. You do have to be an imaginary line. 3 lengths away from the mark is when the rules turn on and off, and that's where then, you know, some people get room to go around the mark and then others don't. So that's where the drawing line is.
Well, the question will be whether Masterlock Comanche will stay down to leeward of Law Connect or whether she will tack to clear her air. At the moment, I think she looks settled down now, Masterlock Comanche. She'll try and power her way through to leeward, and maybe she can live there, maybe she can't. But at the moment, it's pretty equal.
And the majority of the fleet are now heading south, beating into this confused seaway. It's not easy for the big boats, Law Connect and Master Lock Comanche. Well, remember in 2023 in Hobart, they were separated by this margin at the finish of the race. And last year, Master Lock Comanche absolutely decimated its mainsail and was forced to retire on the first night. Law Connect then had the race to itself, and they went on for a second line honours victory in a row as the underdog, which Christian Beck just adores. He said, this boat's got to make mistakes if we are to win again. But who would want to be in the bow of a 100-footer?
Well, the bowman's just working on the furling gear there. He's probably rereaving the tack lines and perhaps bring the furler back, which he's doing now, just to lessen the weight in the bow. But it's not a place for the faint-hearted up there in this big seaway. And here's the conglomeration of the smaller boats going around the inner turning mark. There's plenty of them. You've really got to keep your nose clear here and make sure that there's no accidents, because it could end your race fairly quickly. But you can just see how many of these tiny boats or smaller boats are at this turning mark all at the one time.
And as they do come in together, the congestion, there's also rules in play where they do have to have interpretations. There's a hard line, 3 boat lengths of the largest boat's length. That's where the rules turn on and off.
And there's a famous boat that Peter Shipway sailed into the finishing line at Castray back in 1974 as the overall winner. Love and War.
Yeah, she'll enjoy these conditions, the freshening breeze with the small sails up today, but she's got to get clear of the heads as we're watching Wild Thing, 100, Grant Warrington. He's already tacked onto port, probably to clear his air. And you can see a few white caps, not as much breeze as we originally thought there's going to be, but certainly the seaway is up.
And URM Group on the left of the screen here, leading Celestial V70 around that second turning mark. URM Group's done a great job holding off SHK Scallywag that's just there, and the leaders punching all the way out.
And it's also a very lumpy sea for the little boats. And they'll be looking for the southbound east coast current, which is predicted to be up around 3 knots. And if you can manage to suck into that current and ride those little eddies, that's going to be a big help.
You can just see how light the breeze is here because of the boats are taking the wind off all the other boats. It's just light up and down. They've really got to clear their air as quick as they can. It's not as easy to do.
We just saw Just Far Love with R201 on the sail, and now we have our all-women crew First Light, led by Elizabeth Tucker, 6 females on board, and looks like they got out of the heads in great shape.
They've got clear air. That's the main thing, isn't it, at the moment?
They do look powered up and loaded, so it looks like they had a great exit.
Ocean sailing expeditions, that's where people actually pay to partake. They have 3 or 4 days of training, and you can pay up to $14,000 for the joy of going down to Hobart.
They might want their money back tonight, that's for sure. If it's going to get as windy as the forecast predicts and the sea is as lumpy as it predicts, but at the moment the sea is up and the wind is not, but it certainly will strengthen as they get further out to sea. You can see Master Lock Comanche just getting nicely settled down now. Looks pretty well trimmed, right sails up, full mainsail, and here comes some of the that's G54 in the foreground is flight mode from the Royal Yacht Club of Tasmania, a Moody 54. Rob Goulet and his son Tim Goulet on board. Very nice cruiser racer.
And tactically, Peter, particularly for the leaders now and these middle of the fleet boats, what's the approach going down the coast? How far offshore do they go? Do they stick close to the rum line?
Well, look, the forecast is for the breeze to go to the right, to move from the south-southeast into the southwest. So you wouldn't want to get too far left early. You want to probably stay in closer to the coast if the breeze does go right. That's in the next 24 hours. But further down, there's going to be a transition between southeast and northeast, and that's the tricky part of this race. And the little boats will get a better transition than the bigger boats, and that's why it'll bring them into handicap favouritism.
Well, Jimmy, if these 100-footers hold together, it's going to be a fantastic finish, and these two at each other's throats at the lead.
Yeah, great to see, isn't it? We're just down here with the back markers, the fourth fleet from that line, and it's a real washing machine now down in Sydney Heads as they work their way through all this disturbed wind, and also the spectator fleet, anyone that's brave enough to sort of head out past the Heads. I just spotted two boats of our servicemen and women. I just saw the Navy and both the Army, and I've got to say that the Army have got bragging rights so far. They were first out the head and they beat the Navy, so we'll see if that lasts.
Yeah, well, Happy Wanderer is the holder of the Ogden Cup with their SAS, both past and present on board. And as we're back towards the rear of the fleet, Lisa, can you see how these little double-handers are going as well? There are 13 double-handers who started off the back line, the fourth line.
Yeah, it's awesome to see so many double-handers out there. I'm really impressed that they're going to be sailing 628 nautical miles with just the two of them. But I'm right near the final turning mark. We've only got two boats left around. So, I mean, this start has been incredibly quick. Obviously downwind, so it's nice and fast even for those smaller boats. But as Jimmy was saying, the congestion that we saw around this mark and all the rules that were in place for people to get around was just so difficult. And as you've been talking about, Peter, clear air is everything. You want to get your boat powered up, you want to sail in the groove, especially when there's waves like this. It's really hard when you're kind of in evaporated air to just be beating into that swell. So I'm sure they're hoping to get into open ocean pretty soon.
Okay, well, here's the first tactical move. Law Connect has tacked onto port to clear away from Master Lock Comanche, let him go further out to sea. So this is the first tactics to come into play. There's me looking back at the Dover Heights Vaucluse area on South Head. And still the breeze is up again now once they've cleared away from the washing machine that was Sydney Heads. Here's our Chinese friends, I think, on Marguerite. I think this is Marguerite. Yes, it is. All Chinese crew. And they're the last boat at the turning mark.
Yes, there are two all Chinese crews. And as the fleet now heads south, we're approaching Bondi. And 15 boats from the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia will be dropping petals overboard as a tribute to the victims of the Bondi massacre, that tragedy on the 14th of December. So 15 of the CYCA's boats, including Celestial V70, skippered by the Commodore of the Cruising Yacht Club, Sam Haynes, and Peter Shipway, your daughter, Grace, on Love and War, will be dropping petals overboard as a tribute on that day that changed Australia forever.
Yes, it's a sad honour given to Grace, but I'm very honoured to be doing it, and thank you to Simon Kurtz for allowing her to do that. But she's on her first trip to Hobart, so she'll know all about it tonight, that's for sure. As we're watching Law Connect down, getting towards Bondi. Nice port tack there, and plenty of breeze. She's got a full hoist mainsail, probably a J3 jib. And there's the famous Bondi in the background.
Yes, so on that note, as we pay tribute to those victims on December 14, it's certainly going to be a hairy ride, a bumpy ride, uncomfortable. There's going to be seasickness and there will be boat breakage. But the race is now 25 minutes old, the 80th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. And Christian Beck, Tony Mutter, Chris Nicholson, pretty well on a rumline course at the moment. The distance of the race, 628 to 630 nautical miles. Last year, this boat travelled about 40 extra miles on the course. And remember, it was all downwind, fast and furious on the first night, but exactly the opposite into the southerly in 2025.
There's Inner two-hander. She's battling away at North Shore 38. Nicely big doghouse there to hide under in these waves. But she's got clear air, that's the main thing. But you can see the Bumpy's old sea wave, up and down, up and down, crashing around. Just ahead of her, I think, is Maritime. No, it's not. It's is that boat there? I can't see the sail number. But they've got clear air. There's a couple of boats already started to tack to get onto port.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a lineup as they come out of those turning markers and sail on the wind, the close hauled angle. They're able to then figure out, okay, do I need to tack now or can I hold in a little bit longer?
Inchuk from the Royal South Australian Yacht Squadron, Robert Large and Andrew Ebbett.
And to windward of her is Western Morning, Mark Ato. Famous Sparkman of Stevens, 34. His son Oscar is on board. As we're watching Law Connect, now on port tack in plenty of breeze. You can see the white caps picking up. Spectator ferry alongside. I would say a few Christmas dinners might be swirling around in a few tummies out there. But now a few boats clearing their air more than anything to get back onto port. You can see a lot of them now because there's such a lineup, boats on starboard. You've got to clear your air even in these windy conditions. You just cannot stay in a boat's gas.
You can see just to the right-hand side of the screen the final turning markers all lined up. Remember, there are a few of them to even out the distances among the 4 lines. That's when they can really open up those tacking points and the tactical options. Because if you're starting to slow down now, sitting in people's dirty air or being congested, you're not able to, you're already losing minutes. In this race, it really is about those seconds, minutes.
Troubadour.
Yes, Todd McHenry from the Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron. And remember, there are 15 entries from Queensland this year, 15 also from Victoria, and 16 international entries for the 80th edition.
Safe and reliable yacht that will be making its way, including McHenry family members as well. More families in this race than we've seen in the recent ones.
Yes, Troubadours, Lindsay or Lincoln McHenry, formerly from California, now, as we mentioned, Queensland, and Marley, the son, is the navigator, and Samantha, the daughter, is also on board. The race now, nearly 29 minutes old, repeating. It was Law Connect for the 3rd year in a row, getting first to the turning mark ahead of Masterlock Comanche.
The fleet now starting to split up. A lot of boats have got onto port tack, including Law Connect, who's got onto port now, back onto starboard. Wanted to clear his air away from Masterlock Comanche. And now they're down, getting down towards Bondi. Sea up, wind is up. And it's not going to get any more pleasant as they get further south. There's Tony Mutter at the helm, and behind him Chris Nicholson, that outstanding Australian yachtsman, 2-time Australian Yachtsman of the Year, just having a look around. He'd be doing the tactics aboard Law Connect for Christian Beck.
He doesn't like the bumpy weather, though. Well, seasickness is a problem.
Well, I don't know what he's going to do about that, but there's the gap. Well, there's the distance between the two of them as they approach on an intersection. Masterlock Comanche's now got onto port, is coming back to intersect with Law Connect, and in the background we have Lucky still standing out to sea on a long starboard tack.
We could really see this happen all throughout the night as they're trying to get the jump on each other, especially Masterlock Comanche and Law Connect. But Lucky, the 90-footer, holding in there just to be able to continue going, still ahead of the other 200-footers at this point in time.
And also, Olivia, this is the second of 3 legs for the new Southern Cross Series, which is designed to attract international boats. And it's going to finish after this race, starting in February, with the Trans-Tasman, the inaugural CYCA Trans-Tasman race from Sydney to Auckland.
Well, here comes the first cross, and it's still Law Connect on starboard, Masterlock Comanche on port. They're just off Bondi and a couple of miles to seaward, and it looks like Masterlock Comanche's going to be fairly close here, but Law Connect still has starboard tack rights. And it's starting to get windy and bumpy. Law Connect still ahead. That's the news. Good job, Tony Mutter.
These two boats being very similar in styles, slightly wider than the other 100-foot Super Maxis that we've seen. I do think it's a little bit closer than the previous, or where they went around those turning marks. But Law Connect, do you think they're going to be protecting that right-hand side as they make their way down to Hobart?
Well, the forecast would say that in the next 24 hours. You wouldn't want to get too far left of the rum line, because getting down past Jarvis Bay, Montague Island, the forecast is for the breeze to go back into the southwest. So you'd want to protect the right a little bit. But it's still early days yet. They'll be formulating, looking at the weather forecast and formulating a tactic to get down the coast. But these two boats won't let each other go. No one's going to take a flyer, that's for sure. And as we move back, Palm Beach probably in 4th place behind Lucky in 3rd. And then coming out is SH...
Wild Thing 100.
Wild Thing, okay. Grant Warrington, he's done well. I think SHK Scallywag stood out on starboard. Warro's put a few tacks in. And he's only a couple of boat lengths behind Palm Beach. But look at that, massive boats still in their heads. They're a long way behind, or just so far as how far ahead these Maxis can get in just over 32 minutes.
And that's No Limit. Yep, I think that's No Limit making their way. They've extended and taken a tack up to the right as well. No Limit with a new suite of sails for this Rolex Sydney Hobart. A few modifications done to their boat and a great team together.
Billy Merrington, the sailing master. Steve Kemp on his 25th Hobart race. Julian Freeman, 30-plus Hobart races. Very, very experienced crew for David Goetz. And as I mentioned earlier, this boat finished 3rd in 2018 as Voodoo. But here she is, No Limit. Oh, it's bouncy, no doubt about that.
Tony Ellis was on board No Limit for his 52nd Sydney Hobart, but he's on board Midnight Rambler this year for his 55th, which is the record.
And it's also, just at the bottom of the screen there, we see a boat with its jib flapping, just gone off screen now. It might have had a problem with the jib sheets, but here we go. Here's another split in the big fellas. Okay, that sail's sheeted back on, but it's still a lot of the little boats on port, on starboard tack going out to sea.
Callisto.
Here's Callisto. Now, this could be a race favourite. Top New Zealand crew, as I mentioned earlier, Dean Barker, Stu Bannatyne was on Alive when they won a couple of years ago. Justin Ferris. This boat was launched as Invisible Hand, a sister to Warrior One that got 4th in the Hobart 3 years ago, owned by James Murray, a boat of the same name. He raced in the Admiral's Cup, but it was a different boat. This is Callisto, a Pack 52, designed by Judel Vrolick. Would prefer hard running conditions. Well, she's not going to get that for the next 48 hours, but nonetheless, this good crew will push her hard, right to the limit, and she will certainly figure in divisional placings.
And as we look up to those 100-footers up to the right, we're seeing a lot of tactics. Now, this is Match Racing 101. Stay between your competitor and the mark or the wind. And Law Connect is trying to do both. Really not letting Masterlock Comanche have anything.
No, they'll have a dogfight all the way. That is for sure. You cannot let your opposition, the boat of the same speed, get out of your sight. Here's Noah's 2. Formerly Itchy Barn, the big Itchy Barn, the 60-foot Itchy Barn, designed by Don Jones. She was 3rd to finish in 2006 and 2007. Noah's 2.
So, team from Poland, bringing a Polish crew out for the race, and a family Polish affair as well.
Yes, the skipper is Reshmislav Tarnacki from the Royal Ocean Racing Club of the UK. And it's been chartered from Noah's, the Chinese operation, who are based in Bellevue Hill in Sydney. Just the one non-Polish is Brian Thompson, the first British sailor to break the solo round the world speed record.
Aragon. Now, this has got some good crew aboard. Adrian Carlin and Caroline Brewer, 2 outstanding female sailors flying the flag of the Netherlands. Caroline Brewer, twice World Yachtsman of the Year. Antipodes.
Antipodes being from Hong Kong, but Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club this year. owns, sorry, it's part of Natasha, her daughter, is co-skipper on board, another co-skipper female, one of the 14 owners and co-skippers who are female.
Yeah, Jeff Hill's daughter, Natasha, very experienced crew. Heap of guys that done 30 plus Hobarts. Andrew Brown, Brad Kellett, Ralph Carlier, and Larry Jamison.
Yeah, Jeff was asked why he keeps doing the race, and he said, because I'm stupid. He's probably feeling a bit that way at the moment. But Brad Kellett also on board in his 33rd Rolex Sydney Hobart in a row. Amazing.
I think this is
Alethea.
Yep, Alethea. Solaris 80, racing in the PHS division. That's not the full handicap division. She can't win the overall prize. The overall prize is given to the winner of the IRC division, which is the computer-generated rating. This is the performance handicap rating. Beautiful 80-foot cruising boat. Solaris 80 from the Dusseldorf Yacht Club in Germany. She's got a red protest flag flying there, Olivia, I think off the backstay.
I have seen, well, I can imagine there'll be a lot of protests based on those turning mark incidents. Again, it's a bit grey depending on which boat and which angle you see the incidents happen. So yes, that was a protest flag from Alethea.
But you can absolve yourself before you get to Bondi, basically, by doing penalty turns to absolve yourself. Now, as I think we say every year, why don't you do them? If there's anything hanging over your head, why would you want to go to Hobart with trying to fight it out in a protest room?
So we've got V5, Brian Peterson's yacht from New Zealand, has been over for all the Blue Water series and offshore series here in Sydney for 6 months. Also did Hamilton Island Race Week, a fantastic team from Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and a couple of other yacht clubs there, and is an incredibly competitive TP52 in this year's fleet.
And these conditions excellent for the TP52s.
And three yachts from the Royal New Zealand Yacht Club. Callisto also racing for the Royal New Zealand Yacht Club. Here is Sticky.
Richard Harris.
Yeah, Richard Harris. The Sticky's has done 10 Hobart. She retired in 2023, her last trip to Hobart. And Richard Harris representing the Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club. She was formerly About Time, and she was 8th in the Gold Coast race recently. She's a Cookson 50, and she will enjoy going upwind.
Yeah, it looks quite comfortable on board the Sticky at the moment.
Well, she better enjoy it because she's going to go upwind for a long while. What have we got down to?
Maritimo 100.
Ah, here's a comfortable boat.
Yes, one of the non-Grand Prix racing 100-footer we have in this race, Maritimo 100.
Owned by Bill Barry Cotter from the Maritimo powerboat ownership. Very comfortable trip. Murray Spence, very experienced navigator. He's aboard as the navigator. Murray's done 25 plus Hobart races. It's a beautiful Oyster 100 designed by the Dubois office. Bit of water over the decks and probably upsetting the baked dinner, I think, that they probably had ready for dinner, but they'll be bumping along. Give us a wave. There's Bill at the back. Murray Spence there. Very comfortable and dry at the moment.
As all these crews say goodbye to Sydney and make their way into the night, into the afternoon, it's going to be obviously a bumpy ride. And you can see the fleet starting to spread out now 40 minutes after the start of the Rolex Sydney Hobart. One of the prettiest boats in the fleet, Oriton Drumfire. Now they'll be having a roast dinner and watching the cricket, I'm sure. But it's an incredibly beautiful boat. It, obviously part of the the cruiser racer division that's new this year in the Rolex Sydney Hobart. Have a few females, Katie McDonald, Yvette Heritage on board. Brandon Byink is again back, Philip Neal, sailing manager. It's just such a beautiful boat as they wave goodbye.
A quick overview of the forecast, Gordon, looking ahead. The breeze due to go to 25 knots, gusting 30 as they get further south. There's a strong wind warning for Illawarra coastal waters. That's between basically from Botany Bay south to almost Montague Island. And then south of Montague Island, the breeze, as I said earlier, forecast to move back to the right, to the south-southwest, 25 knots to 27 knots, and then easing, and then overnight, the breeze still around about 25 knots. And for the big fellas, as they get into Bass Strait, still headwinds, but then there's going to be a transition that might bring the little boats home in a nor'easter, while the big boats are still plunging away into a southerly. And that's why I feel that it might become a little boat race on handicap.
And we have Annika and Ian Thompson's Andrews 52 Ocean Crusaders Jaybirds. So not only are they all electric powered on this boat, female skipper plus 3 other women on board. They've won the Jane Tate Memorial Trophy for the past 3 years. Hotly contested for the first female over the line in the Rolex Sydney Hobart, and obviously a very keen sustainability supporter.
And it's Ian Thompson steering at the moment on Ocean Crusaders Jaybird. Yes, looking for a 4th straight victory, which would be a history-making effort for first female skipper across the line. But there's some hot competition this year. So just over 42 minutes completed in the race. It's Lorconnect and Masterlock Comanche battling it out at the head of the fleet, and it's a real bash for the rest as we head down the New South Wales coast. You're watching the 80th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.
Okay, breeze is still up. It's probably got a little fresher since they've got outside the heads. Seaway is up. That's a good bash, as we keep saying. Fleet are starting to split up. Some have gone on port tack, and then most of the fleet probably going to get out a little bit to try and pick up a little bit of current. There's not that much current forecast, but probably if you can get a little bit, it will certainly help. It will certainly help. Here's Minerva. The 43-footer. Ed Cox, his boat. First Hobart for this boat. Oh. Okay, the Turiflame. No. She'd be in this area.
That's Latira Flan that we just saw there. Christopher Taylor from CYCA.
Yeah.
And there's the Navy and also the Army and Happy Wanderer. They're the three of 5 boats battling this year for the Ogden Cup.
There's Love on Board.
At the moment, as you're watching this live stream, we're searching for Mistral, the two-hander with Rupert Henry.
No.
That's not her.
No,
Rupert
no.
Henry and Pablo Santorde.
That was Pac-Man, another double-handed Peter Elkington, Scott Kavanagh.
So they'll probably
Queensland.
be ahead of this group of two-handers. They should be up ahead in this group.
Seeing a bit more spread of the fleet now. 129 entrants. Got off on those 4 start lines.
Plenty of white caps. That breeze certainly around 25 knots.
I think you had. Don't worry. Okay, it's breezy.
Yes, it was a breathtaking start. Law Connect and Master Lock Comanche, they were the big boys, but this is one of the two-handers. And Peter Shipway has suggested that the way conditions are shaping out for this race, a little boat like this could easily come through and take the overall prize, which is the George Tattersall Cup.
Yeah, Rupert Henry and Pablo Sonterde, the gun Spanish single-handed yachtsman or double-handed yachtsman. They've won the last double-handed division the last 3 times. They're going for 4 in a row, which would be a record. Rupert steering, Pablo just sitting quietly on the rail. I think this boat is going to give it a really big shake for overall honours. Rupert determined to win this race. He's been trying for many years, but the last 3 times it's been unbelievable performance, finishing right amongst the big boats. Finished 9th overall last year, 6th the year before. In good shape, standing away on port tack, lumpy old sea, but a really good crew. She's going to take some beating first in the double-handed division, and then she may threaten for overall honours.
Olivia, it looks as though they've had a reasonable run out, considering they started on the 4th line, and they've obviously got themselves into a good position to really challenge and stay in one piece tonight.
Exactly. You know, starting in that 4th line meant that they had one of the closer to the right marks as they made their way outside the heads, giving them more of an advantageous position as they tactically placed themselves. Now, Rupert and Pablo hadn't sailed much together in the lead up to the race. Pablo arriving just the week before, so they'd sailed multiple days in a row, so they did get used to each other in that week, but it was more about really making the most of the time they had on the water. They didn't have a long lead in.
And the other boat I like, Gordon, another small boat, is Bacchanal. Retired last year with a broken boom. Brand new she was last year, but she's back this year. She rates down a little bit, and the lower rating boats are going to come into play here. And Bacchanal will, I think she'll figure quite high on the handicap list, given this forecast. But the forecasts are not always right. She was JPK 1180, Shane Guadario and Tom Barker, well-known Sydney yachtsmen aboard.
I think that was lucky that we saw making their way furthest offshore. You could see that they were bashing into some big swells, obviously offshore having more swell. So we'll see how they fare against Master Lock Comanche and Law Connect, who are working up that inside shore of Sydney, up the coast there.
Well, Juan Vila, as I said earlier, one of the world's top navigators aboard Lucky. He would know the course to go. They'll be picking current, they'll be picking wind shifts. It's going to be a really, really good fight at the top of the table for line honours. And this is, who have we got here?
That's the Smuggler.
Smuggler with Fred on the sail. Blue Water champion last year. And skipper Seb Bohm, he was the CYC Yachtsman of the Year. The breeze quite fresh. It's in the right, it looks like, a little bit there. Full mainsail, small J3 jib.
Yes, Seb Bohm, he and his father run a company called Just for Laughs, the Sydney Comedy Festival. They've just done one of those in Singapore, and their comedians include John Cleese, Rowan Atkinson, Stephen Fry, Steve Martin, and he was telling me he's done 650 comedy shows this year, Peter. You and Olivia love a little joke, a little laugh, but he's a former bass guitarist.
Well, it's interesting. Law Connect and Palm Beach still on port, going right into the shore. Well, we've seen off-camera Lucky going right to seaward. Here is Money Penny, I think, still on port tack, going in towards the northern side of Botany Bay. Lumpy old sea. Gee, it's going to be tough conditions tonight. This seaway will get up. Further south they get.
They won the 2025 Flinders Islet race inside the old race record and the Tollgate Islands race. I was sailing both of those. Oh, sorry, one of those. And Moneypenny pipped us just by a couple of seconds, and I was on board URM Group.
Okay, Josh Alexander, who's sailed a long time with Sean Langman. He's aboard as navigator for Rob Appleyard from Western Australia. And 50 years later, could a second Western Australian boat win the overall prize? This Law Connect. She's going to run into a bit of real estate shortly. She'll have to bail out and get on to starboard.
Really wants to win that right-hand side of the course.
They certainly do at early stages. So it's interesting the tactics playing here. Chris Lewis, the navigator on Law Connect, has got her going into the right. protecting the right, and Juan Vila out to the left.
Potentially less sea state in there as well, so you wouldn't be stopping and starting as much as those boats offshore like Lucky. We can see that they'll be setting up to tack shortly, but then Masterlock Comanche will have to make a decision as to whether they go even further or consolidate and see what happens next.
Well, those were tactics that proved successful for Blackjack when it finally broke through back in 2021.
The boats are getting well down the coast, even though they're on the breeze. They're still making very good progress, but as I said in the opener, no chance of the record of 1 day, 9 hours that Comanche set in 2017. The weather models have these boats arriving about 24 hours later in about 2 days, 9 hours. As Palm Beach dropped a little bit back, she wouldn't be liking these conditions compared to Law Connect and Masterlock Comanche. A narrow boat, prefers to go downwind, and you can see a reef in the mainsail. So they've just got to try and hang in there and wait till the breeze perhaps gets round to the east or northeast and try and make up time there. But at the moment, they're handing out a fairly good lead to Law Connect and Masterlock Comanche.
It is going to be a hold in and try and not lose much for these Palm Beach 100 this Palm Beach 100 team. They've only done 3 days of sailing in the new configuration of that hull. So, you know, they're still learning more about the boat as those modifications, they move those stagger boards forward. They're longer keel and a lighter bulb. So the righting moment is slightly different, and power control. So again, just experience for them going into the future.
The Cruising Yacht Club of Australia is the host club. It's open 7 days a week, and that's where all the action was this morning as families farewelled their loved ones. And of course the finishing club is the Royal Yacht Club of Tasmania, with over 260 volunteers working round the clock to make sure everyone gets that great hospitality in Hobart, which they're renowned for.
Well, we're looking at the Line Honours champion. She won the last 2 years and also again in 2016. And at the moment, she's just got a bow in front ahead of Masterlock Comanche with about 615 miles to go. So 2 days, just over 2 days' time, we'll have a clear indication who's going to take the Illingworth Cup for first to finish honours. But she looks pretty comfortable there. Nice motion through the seaway, big wide boat. And here's Masterlock Comanche. She's going to seaward on starboard tack. And I think so further to the right, we had another boat. Was that Lucky, I think? Yeah. Lucky's still going to sea. I don't think Lucky's tacked yet.
No, they've kept going on starboard majority of the time, so they'll be in more sea state, and that's why it looked like they were closer to Masterlock Comanche. But it seems like Masterlock Comanche had to kind of concede a little bit of positioning here to Law Connect, who was just not going to let them get to the right of them at all.
Yes, Scallywag's out there as well with Wild Thing and URM Group further out to sea.
Well, the real battle for navigators, is that Chris Lewis just coming out of the hatch? No, I don't think it is. Ty Oxley, I think, perhaps. Tony Mutter steering.
You can see the crew's really locked in there, everyone at the back trying to make sure that the bow, the front of the boat doesn't steam into these waves as much.
Well, sorry, Olivia, there's Ian Thorpe without the hat.
There he is.
He's enjoying it at the moment.
Third from the back.
Yeah. What a thrill for him. And any first timer to do their initial Hobart race.
And the real feature of this race, if you want to follow it 24/7, you've got the Rolex Sydney Hobart yacht tracker, RolexSydneyHobart.com. You can follow every single boat. You can follow where they've gone, where they're aiming to go to, and at what part of the race they're at, what part of the coast, and just how fast they're going. So the course tracker, RolexSydneyHobart.com/tracker. Make sure you follow all the way, but we'll be covering this race from the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race Village in Hobart. Stay with us all the way. Keep up to date with all the action of the 2025 Rolex Sydney Hobart with live updates from the Hobart Race Village. Watch the official CYCA TV YouTube channel from 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. daily. Coverage starts Saturday the 27th of December. Watch the live finish for line honours from the River Derwent, plus all the excitement of the Hobart Village with exclusive content as it happens.
Law Connect just tacking. And as we wind down this live broadcast of the 80th Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, it's time to say goodbye to Gordon Bray, because Gordon has decided, after service of 50 years covering the Sydney Hobart race, this is his swan song. And Gordon, I think on behalf of all the sporting public, especially the yachting public, we say thank you for a job well done, yeoman service, attention to detail incredible, wonderful job, and thank you for all you've delivered to this great race.
Well, it's certainly been a joy working alongside Olivia and also Peter Shipway. May your commentary careers, may they be longer and longer. But as far as I'm concerned, it's all about the respect and the admiration for the sailors and the people involved in this great race. And that's really what it's all about, and that's why it's been so enjoyable. We just want to see everyone finish safely and have a great race, and hopefully not too difficult tonight.
Well, we thank you for your service, Gordon, as we're watching Law Connect hang on to the lead, narrow lead over Masterlock, Comanche and Lucky. They're down just north of Botany Bay on a starboard tack off to seaward now. Most of the boats heading out towards the east, and I think they'll go out for an hour or two and then come back on port tack and go close the coast somewhere down Wollongong. As I said, forecast to be 25 to 30 knots. At the moment, it's probably about 20 to 22 knots, but a big seaway that's making progress a little bit difficult and making things a little bit uncomfortable.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter Shipway, and also Olivia Price and Lisa Darmanham, and our America's Cup hero, James Bithill, as we now sign off from our coverage of the 80th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. Law Connect and Masterlock Comanche having a ding-dong go. Lucky from the United States, a real dark horse, and don't forget Mistral Rupert Henry.
Okay, coming on the wind. Want a slightly high moan. There we go.